you chose to spend this part of your day, this part of your weekend here. Today we're starting a new series called Exile State of Mind. We're looking at Jeremiah. We're going to explore God's faithfulness to his people and how we respond to the call God puts in our lives. So we're going to spend some time now singing together about God's faithfulness. He deserves our praise from east to west, from dawn to dusk, now and tomorrow and always. Please stand if you're able and sing with us.
God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant.
thank you that you are always with us when we struggle to see or feel your presence because of things that are going on around us. Thank you that we never have to face anything without you. You never fail us. We thank you for your faithfulness and your goodness. Amen.
Hey everybody, It's great to see you all here this afternoon. Full marks to all of you for getting here on a long weekend after some nice warm sun yesterday, losing an hour's sleep. So all of you that have managed to make it here, fantastic work, particularly middle of the school holidays as well. Every excuse not to come and gather. Not that I'm trying to give you an excuse to leave now. We're glad you're here, glad that you've made the effort. It's really looking forward to worshipping together, doing dinner together. We're about obviously in the middle of school holidays, but for Richmond we're sort of kicking off term 4 today in terms of our program, which means a lot of what I'm sharing this afternoon is our plans for the coming term. So we're kicking off a new series today called Exile State of Mind, which is looking at the book of Jeremiah and exploring that together. But we also have our full plan for alternative gatherings coming up. So next Sunday, and these will be emailed out to you so you don't need to quickly fill them into your phone, but if you're the type that likes being organised, feel free to do that now. Next Sunday, October 12, we're having small group alternative gatherings. Obviously, we really do believe that small groups are the lifeblood of the church and a way that we do fellowship and community together really well. And so if you're not part of one, this is a chance to check it out. If you are currently in one, that's one way to continue doing so. We'd love for you to sign up right now if you could scan the QR code. If you're not entirely sure, this link will be in the email, and we'd love for you to know by Wednesday ideally. I think we've got 4 gatherings taking place, different locations, different times, exploring some things together, unpacking some of what we're talking about today and in this series, but also having some check-in questions and some time for deeper discussion. If you've got any questions, feel free to chat to Nate, email him, any of those things. But we'd love for you to sign up right now, ideally, or in the next couple of days. Then we've got a whole roster of our gatherings. So the fortnight after that, we're doing a nature walk. Nature walk got amazing feedback with our first one. Jules said it was her favourite of the whole thing, got top marks. We're looking forward to getting out in creation again, experiencing processing a lot of what we're thinking about, but also worshipping God outside of a building, outside of a space. On November 9th, is that the next one I'm going in the right order? We're having the Jeremiah Immersive Experience, which will be tying in with what we're doing in the weeks where we gather together here, with creative stations helping us to reflect and interact with the ideas that we've been talking about. That one will be at Glandore Community Centre. After that, we'll be back at Grove Avenue, which will be exciting. Spending some time doing a prayer walk, maybe doing some coffees, barbecue lunch. We'll get the details out, but we want to continue to get to know that space. It was very exciting getting to be there in person recently and sort of doing some more of those tangible things. And then on December 7th, hard to believe we're thinking about December already. Hard to think we're thinking about Advent already. But Advent Conspiracy Workshop, which is a set of practices. Oh, thanks, Jimmy, that's a great picture. Advent Conspiracy is a great set of practices helping us to embrace what Advent's about, get us ready for the Advent season, to consider what it is to be giving away, giving of ourselves and loving the people around us. And lastly, then we're partnering with Seeds on Saturday, December 20th, for a Carols Night at Rex Jones Reserve. Seeds have run this for the last couple of years, something that gets the community involved, and we'll have opportunities to help them in a bunch of different ways. We'll give you more details about that as we get closer. If you're not sure about any of those details or you can't remember them, they will be in the email, or we have these postcards, which will be floating around at dinner afterwards. We'll also be at the back. We're trying something novel with this term series of postcards, in that they have the right date and times on them, so you can give us feedback if that is helpful. But that's a good little resource to have so that you don't have to hold all of this in the memory bank. Oh, my boys are making chaos out the front. Yeah, that's great. In other news, we've got someone who's looking to get baptised in the coming weeks. So if that's something you've been considering or something you'd like to know more about, Nate would love to have more of a chat with you about it. Obviously, it's a big part of what we see as important as a Baptist church, and in terms of faith and stories of faith, and we'd love to sort of go on that journey with you, have those discussions. If that's been something you've been thinking about or want to know more about, please do chat to Nate. And then obviously, with it being school holidays, we don't have a formal kids program today. There are pencils and things to draw with up at the back, so please do grab those. We'll try and make my kids less distracting as Nate gets up here. But yeah, lots of things to do. Let's pray together as Nate comes up. King Jesus, thank you for the chance to do community together, to worship you together. Thank you for all that you're doing within this community at the moment and all the things that are coming up in this term. Help us to be open to you, to your word. Help us to hear what you're trying to speak to us this evening, both in Nate's message, in the conversations we have through dinner afterwards, as we get excited for the future and all these things we're stepping into. Help open up our imagination. Help us to be open. Help us to be listening, selfless and patient. And fill us with your joy, Lord. And Jesus, be with us this evening. Guide us. May we hear your words faithfully. Amen.
Thanks, Josh. There is one other piece of late breaking news which we forgot to get to Josh. Is some very exciting news this week that the money has arrived. Yes, so that deserves a wave. So we're very excited because for once it actually came quicker than we thought. So we got told on Monday that it was probably like that it had all been processed and it was like floating around and we'd find out at some point, and then it magically showed up the next day, which we're very excited about. So that's now finished. Everything is done. We have the keys, we have the money, so we're done. We're on the other side of all of it, and now we just get to do the fun. So yes, it's really, really great. So thanks for your continued perseverance, patience, and prayer as we've made our way through this time. But excited for us to be able to just go ahead and do what we need to do now without worrying about do we have enough to be able to cover it in the meantime, which is great. So jumping into our message today, I want to ask you to think about who it is that you, or what it is that you rely on. So obviously there's a good simple answer to that. We'll rely on Jesus, so that's a good answer. But outside of that, what else or who else do you rely on? What are the things that you really need to make life work? So for some of us, we might think about money. So I need to make sure my bank account's under control and I know everything's going to be taken care of and everything's all right there in order for there to be a sense of stability. For some of us, it might be relationships, so friendships or family, but dynamics that we need people around us that we can rely on. For some of us, it might be specific routines or rhythms that we have, the way that our day is structured or the way that our week is structured, and when that gets thrown out, life gets a little bit chaotic. For some of us, it could be our career, so taking a sense of like meaning from what it is that we do, and so that's really, really important to us and we rely on that. And for others of us, we might go to the opposite extreme where it's our hobbies. So we need something as an outlet to rely on in order to be able to cope with everything that's going on in our lives. Hopefully you can think of something. I want you to hold on to that because we're going to come back to that a little bit later on in the message. But as Josh mentioned, we're starting this new series today, which is called Empire State of Mind. So we're spending some time in the book of Jeremiah. And we continue to be in this really fascinating season for us, which does now feel like we've entered into a new phase. So with the money now in hand, with our new location at Marston all sorted, with us having done some of the planning and some of the design stuff, it feels like we're starting to have some things come together and we can see where some of this is going and some of it's starting to take shape. And yet, we're still meeting here. We're still not in our regular rhythms that we're used to. We still don't have a lot of clarity about some of that. How long is all of this going to take? How long is it going to take to build? What is the building actually going to be like? There's still a lot of questions and a lot of things that are up in the air. And so with all that in mind, we thought it'd be helpful to explore a biblical narrative that embodies some similar elements that we're going through, but also has some helpful principles for us to consider and, importantly, some warnings for us to pay attention to while we're in this season as well. And the book of Jeremiah is this really fascinating book because it spends a lot of time talking about the faithfulness and the goodness of God, as we've just been singing about. But it also couples that with the frequent lack of faithfulness of the Israelite people and the pain and the grief that that ends up causing God, who continues to be faithful and good to them, even in spite of them not doing the same. And so there's some really clear guidelines about what it means for us to live out of all of the good things that God has given us, all of the faithfulness that God has shown to us, all that God has revealed to us, but some really significant challenges in that about where exactly we put our hope and our trust, what it is exactly that we rely on. Jeremiah also includes some prophecies about the Messiah who's going to come and set things right once and for all, and so this takes us all the way through to Advent, where we'll have the opportunity to focus on some of those prophecies as well. So today's message is in two parts. We're going to spend the first part of it giving a bit of an overview and some context to Jeremiah that's really, really important for us to understand as we enter into it. And then we'll explore Jeremiah's initial calling and his hesitance to step into what it was that God was calling him into. So as always, we've got some notes outlined in the Bible app. So if you've got that on your phone, you can open that up and go down to the bottom right where it says More and then Events. There's an outline there. And for this series, we've also put together a reading plan, which is chunky. So just be aware, it's very full. Most days are a chapter's worth of reading, and it's going to be a little bit more challenging. A lot of the reading plans that we've normally done have been either based in one of the biographies about Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke or John, or something that's a bit more practical from the New Testament. This one is going to stretch us. So there are some good reflection questions to be able to look at each day, but there will also probably be some other resources that we'll supply as we go through. And if you do at any point get stuck or you're completely lost or confused, then reach out. Don't feel like you have to do that on your own. Feel free to reach out to me or reach out to each other and say, what on earth did you think was going on in that today? Because I really don't have a clue. There will be a bit of that, so that's okay. So those reading plans will be attached to tomorrow's email, but there are some hard copies out in the foyer if you want to grab one of them on your way out tonight. So the book of Jeremiah is actually the longest book in the Bible, which you might be like, whoa, no way. It's no way it's longer than Psalms. We'll get to that. But it is actually the longest, Psalms aside, the longest book. All of the other prophecies that we focus on, all the other prophets, people like Isaiah, so that's pretty big. Yep, bigger than that. Ezekiel, bigger than that. And in actual fact, if you take all of the minor prophets, so all of the little guys who talked about what God was up to and tried to challenge the people of Israel, if you put all of that together, all of them, it's a third less than what Jeremiah is. So the only one where you might say, well, Psalms is longer, that's 150 chapters. Jeremiah's not 150 chapters, please. If we're doing it as a reading plan, surely not. That's true, but it's important for us to remember that when the Bible was written, there weren't any chapters and there weren't any verses. So if we want to compare how long a book is, we need to go to word counts. And not just any word counts, but our English language is woefully inadequate at times, and so we embellish words because we need to explain what they are. So we need to do the word count in the original language that each book was written in, and if you do that, Jeremiah wins. Just beats Psalms. So there you go. Interesting little fun fact for you. There's plenty more of them coming, so strap yourselves in. So Jeremiah was born in 646 BC, and he lived until sometime after 586 BC. We don't actually know how or when Jeremiah died, but it was sometime after that because he was still around while that was happening. And Jeremiah is regularly referred to as the weeping prophet. Is that a helpful term or an unhelpful term? Would you be encouraged if someone called you that or not? He's called that partly because the task that he was given was pretty challenging. So the Israelites, as we're going to talk about, end up just going right off the rails. And so some of what he had to say was pretty confronting and pretty challenging. But Jeremiah is also one of the only prophets who really shows us a lot of what's going on in his heart. And he demonstrates a lot of his personal feelings and emotion about what's going on, his struggles, his disappointments about what are happening more than any of the other prophets. Even continuing to mourn for and pray for the Israelites when God's like, nah, let him go, just forget about it. He still keeps going. And his main focus, so if you want two words to sum up the whole book of Jeremiah, it's this: unconditional surrender. Unconditional surrender. That's the theme that gets weaved all the way throughout the book of Jeremiah. No matter what was happening, no excuses, no compromise. Even in the face of massive opposition, even in the face of apathy, even in the face of blatant rejection, Jeremiah continued to try and call the people back to unconditional surrender to God. And just to be clear, this wasn't easy for Jeremiah. His life was at risk a lot of the time. He would have been killed lots and lots of times if God hadn't intervened with the people who were like, stop saying that or we're doing you in. So, to help us get oriented about where this fits into the whole biblical narrative, it's good for us to do a little bit of a journey back through time. So, some of you will love this, some of you will hate it. So, if you will hate it, just switch off, think about something else for a little while. It's okay, I'll bring you back when it's time to not think about history. So, right back at the beginning, we've got Abraham. We all know Abraham. He got given a promise by God that he would be the father of this huge nation, God's chosen people. And people who were chosen to live the way that God had created us to live, to be able to live in a full relationship with God, with each other, and with creation. Abraham then had a son named Isaac. Isaac had a son named Jacob, and Jacob's name is later changed to Israel, which is where we get the Israelites for, if you weren't aware of that. Jacob has 12 sons, which become then the 12 tribes of Israel. We are skating through a lot all at once here. So one of those sons, his name is Joseph of the Technicolor Dreamcoat fame, and he gets sold into slavery in Egypt. A whole bunch of stuff happens. He ends up becoming the second most powerful person in Egypt, helps save them from a famine, and so all of his family then eventually end up in Egypt as well. That extended family grows and grows and grows, as extended families often do, until a new Pharaoh comes along and says, there's a few too many of you, and it's time for us to stamp this out. And so he enslaves all of them. God then chooses Moses to set the Israelites free from slavery, so they go through the Red Sea. Moses is then given the 10 Commandments. So again, this is the way to live. This is what it looks like, to live in a full relationship with God, with each other, and with creation. But the Israelites, as they do frequently throughout the Old Testament, then decide, nah, that's all right. We'll go over here and do our own thing. Thanks for your advice, but we're going to go over there. Because of that, they end up wandering around in the desert for 40 years. Eventually, under the leadership of Joshua, they enter into the Promised Land. And you would think at that point everything would be great. It's like you've been given a Promised Land, you've been told how to live. Like, just do it. Just live the way that you've been told to live. Bang. No, they decide not to do that. They walk away once again from God's best over and over again, including asking God for a king. So we want to be like everyone else. They've all got a king. We want to have a king. Why can't we have a king? So they ask for a king. They end up getting a king. That starts fairly badly with Saul. But then David comes along, and David ends up being a very good king who does unite all the tribes of Israel and makes Jerusalem the spiritual centre of Israel as a nation. Then David's son Solomon builds the temple in Jerusalem as God's dwelling place. So once again, you would think at this point, all right, we know how to live, we've got Jerusalem, everyone's back getting on well together, everyone's happy, let's live. Nope, can't do it. After Solomon's death, things go really, really sideways, and the kingdom then splits into two. So there's Israel in the north, and then there's Judah in the south. And interestingly, Jerusalem, spiritual centre, ends up in Judah, not in Israel in the north. So that can sometimes be a little bit confusing. Well, Israel, the northern kingdom, ends up getting conquered by the Assyrians in 722 BC. And while all of that's going on, God again tries to raise up some prophets to be able to say, like, just live the way that I want you to live. This is what you need to do. God continually tries to be faithful and say, come back to my best. But they continue to say thanks but no thanks, and to pursue idolatry and injustice and all sorts of other bad things. So Israel gets conquered by this massive superpower called the Assyrians, and Jeremiah then comes along in the final stretch of Judah's existence, during this really tumultuous time leading up to and including when Jerusalem is taken by the Babylonians. Talk more about that in a sec, because you might be starting to get lost. Like Israelites, Assyrians, Judah, Babylonians, what is going on? It'll all make sense. And then as that finishes, we then have this massive gap, pretty much of silence, from the time when all of this finishes until the arrival of Jesus. So Jeremiah comes along at this really, really important time where all of this stuff that happens in the Old Testament is kind of coming to an end, and then everyone's just waiting for the Messiah to arrive, which is part of why we thought it would make sense to do this heading into Advent. So, and this is really where some of you are just going to be like, come on, fast forward, skip. So let's run through all of the kings that were around while Jeremiah was there. Some of you are like, yes, this is great. Some of you are like, What? So there was a really good king whose name was Josiah. Where is Josiah? He's hanging around somewhere. So Josiah, really, really good king. He tried to get people back on track. He was one of the good ones. And Jeremiah comes along and works with Josiah originally to try and get things back on track. Josiah sadly dies in a battle when all of the superpowers are fighting each other. So you've got the Assyrians, you've got the Egyptians, and you've got the Babylonians. All right, so try and just keep those three. The Assyrians have been pretty powerful, but the Babylonians are coming, and they're getting stronger and stronger. And so the Egyptians fight with the Assyrians against the Babylonians, hoping that they can wipe them out. Some of this may sound familiar to some of our global conflicts currently. There's this massive time of global turmoil where all this going on to say who is going to be the dominant nation in the world. And so Josiah dies in a battle when the Egyptian army comes with the Assyrians to fight against the Babylonians. Then we've got a whole bunch of other random kings that show up, including a couple that are around for just 3 months. So Jehoahaz, he's around just for 3 months. Then Jehoiakim comes along, and while he's there, the first siege of Jerusalem happens by this guy named Nebuchadnezzar. And you might be like, I've heard of him. Daniel. So the story of Daniel, all of this is going on at the same time as well. King Nebuchadnezzar has come in, taken Jerusalem by siege, so they're just trying to kind of flush them all out. And so Daniel, as a part of that, gets exiled to Babylon. And that's where his story is going on at the same time. Jehoiakim dies, then we have another guy for 3 months, Jehoiachin, and then there's a second siege of Jerusalem. And when this happens, this time Ezekiel, another guy that we know of, he's around at the same time as all of this as well. He gets exiled to Babylon as well. Jehoiachin dies, then Zedekiah comes along, and then during that time, so 588 BC, we have the final siege of Jerusalem, which stretches on for a couple of years, where the Babylonians are just attacking and attacking and attacking, until ultimately in 586, they manage to take over Jerusalem and they destroy the temple. And that's basically the end of what happens to the Israelites from the Old Testament point of view. At this point, there are then mass deportations to Babylonians. So all of the people who were in Jerusalem, vast majority of them get shipped off to Babylon. But Jeremiah stays in Jerusalem with a remnant of the Israelites, still holding out hope that things will be okay. And what's fascinating, that we'll explore as we get into this, is that Jeremiah writes to the exiles in Babylon, encouraging them to make the most of their time while they're there. So rather than saying, like, everything's terrible and you should just give up, Jeremiah's message to the people in exile is to embrace it. And in actual fact, and we will come back to this later, to work for the good of the city, to work for the flourishing of Babylon while they're in exile. It's staggering. And he even goes so far as to say that it's futile and against God's will to resist King Nebuchadnezzar. So just think about that for a moment. Think about what's happening in the world today, and imagine that one of the most powerful nations in the world, I won't name any of them, gets taken over by another very powerful nation. And someone's raised up as a prophet to speak on God's behalf. And they say to that nation, don't fight against it. This is actually God's will. And what God wants you to do is to work for the flourishing of that nation and that city where you've all been taken prisoner. Can you imagine how that would go down if that happened today? We need to hold on to that, because some of this can get lost because it's all Old Testament and it's all weird. But we're dealing with some similar realities at the moment that who knows where the future goes. But imagine if that was the message that was given. At the end of the book of Jeremiah, the remnant, the people who are left in Jerusalem, all flee to Egypt against Jeremiah's protests. He wants them to stay there and hold out, but they won't. And they're just trying to escape from the wrath of Babylon, who just keeps bombarding them, and so they run away to Egypt. And so that's where the end of the book finishes, where Jeremiah's in Egypt and continuing to speak against idolatry, continuing to talk about unconditional surrender, no matter what happens, continuing to try and call the people back to God's faithfulness. Couple more pieces of just context and information about the book that are helpful for us. There are some differences of opinion about how it was written. So some people believe that Jeremiah wrote it with the help of this guy named Baruch, who was his scribe. And so they together kind of wrote all of this out. Some people believe that Jeremiah dictated some of it to Baruch, He also then decided to write some of it as a biography himself, and then some other people chipped in some stuff. But most people would say it was mainly Jeremiah and Baruch. One of the things, if you do the reading plan, that you'll notice is that it's not a very linear book. So we would expect all of that to just kind of unfold over time. But in a lot of ways, we need to approach this the same as we do a lot of the best books that are ever written and a lot of the best movies that ever get made. We kind of have flashbacks. So this is happening, and now we jump back to this, and now this is going, and then we jump up to here, and then how does that fit into this, and then we jump back. There's a lot of that goes on throughout Jeremiah. So we need to pay attention as we're going into it. But we can also understand that if Baruch and Jeremiah were trying to write all of this down and to capture it, in the midst of all of that turmoil, everything that was going on, you can understand they didn't get to sit down every day over breakfast and just go, what happened yesterday? Let's just write that out. And they're like, what happened in the last 3 years? Let's write all that out. Dump it all down there. Last thing I'll say is that there are some very significant similarities between Jeremiah and Jesus and the way that they're both talked about. So both Jeremiah and Jesus are referred to as a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Most of us have heard that about Jesus, but that's also the way in which Jeremiah is referred to. Two people who came to their own people with a message of hope, but were rejected by their own people. Two people who ended up being completely abandoned and left alone. But two people also who never lost compassion. Even when the people that they were coming and trying to help turned against them, they still had a heart for them. So, lots of good reasons. I hope you can see why it's good for us to dig into this book. And so, over the next 5 of our all-in gatherings, today we're going to talk a bit about calling, as I said. Next time we're going to talk about the theme of wandering. So tapping into the reality of God's chosen people consistently wandering away from God's best and giving us a chance to reflect on the things that we sometimes chase after. Then we're going to talk about trusting, in who we put our trust and what that actually looks like. Then we'll explore the theme of restoring, which is a huge part of Jeremiah. There's whole chapters where he paints these beautiful pictures of what ultimate restoration ends up looking like. And then we're going to finish with Adventing. So the last week of this series aligns with the first week of Advent, and the opportunity for us to tap into some of those prophetic pictures of Jesus leading us into the Christmas season. So again, as we continue our journey, where we're in the midst somewhat of being in exile, where we're in this in-between, where we're somewhat in a foreign place, we want to unpack what it looks like for us to continue to hope, to continue to stay faithful, but also to obediently step into what it is that God's got for us in the here and now. What does unconditional surrender look like for us today? So, if you tuned out because of that history lesson, welcome back. It's nice to have you here. Thanks for coming. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to spend like a normal message length. We're just going to have a couple of quick snapshots from the beginning of Jeremiah's life, and then we'll wrap things up. So let's jump into the beginning of Jeremiah chapter 1, see how it all begins. Jeremiah 1, verses 4 and 5. The Lord gave me, Jeremiah, this message. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nation. Super comforting words. Many of us have heard those words either from there or from Psalm 139, and this beautiful picture that God knows us and knows us relationally, not just knows about us, not just knows us intellectually, but connects with us, has a relationship with us before we're even born, even while we're being formed. And God tells Jeremiah that he's been set apart. And that's what the word holy means. So anytime we read the word holy, we can just think about it as being set apart for God's purposes. Other translations use the word sanctified, which is about being made holy or made sacred. So it's interesting for us to process what we have here against what we know ends up being what Jeremiah's life looks like. Because sometimes we read verses like Jeremiah 1 verse 5, I knew you before I formed you, I set you apart, and it kind of conjures up all sorts of nice and fluffy feelings for us. God knows everything about us, God knit us together, God made us a masterpiece. As I said, Psalm 139, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body, knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex, some of us more complex than others. Thank you. Your workmanship is marvellous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. So those are really, really comforting words, and I've read them a lot, and I've used them in all sorts of different contexts. But I know that I generally want those words to mean that my life is going to be easy and is going to be simple. That I'll have this massive impact because all I have to do is to align myself with my gifts and my passions and my wiring, the way that God knit me together, and then everything's going to be gentle and perfect and unfold in a glorious plan, which is going to be amazing. But if we stop and think about what Jeremiah was going to need to say and the way in which the people were going to react to Jeremiah, it's clear that what God's saying here about I know you goes much deeper than just some comforting words. I know that you're strong enough to be able to hold on, even in the midst of massive opposition. I know that you won't cave and you won't compromise, no matter what ends up happening. I know that you will continue to be compassionate towards those people that I love so much. You won't just ream them out, you won't just turn your back on them. I know you'll continue to love them as much as I do. It brings a very different meaning to I knew you before you were even born. Well, even without knowing exactly what the mission was, Jeremiah is already pretty hesitant, as many of us would be. So verse 6, Jeremiah replies, O sovereign Lord, I can't speak for you. I'm too young. Now, he was probably about 20 years old or in his late teens when this happened, and so we can understand his hesitancy. We can imagine that Rach or Tice, if God came and said to them, I have this mission for you, this is what I want you to do, that they might also push back and say, I'm not sure that I'm quite ready just yet. But Jeremiah also talks about his inadequacies. I can't speak for you is translated in other places as I don't know how to speak. There's a sense of having a lack of eloquence or a lack of speaking ability. Reminds us of Moses, who kind of did the same thing. God came and said, I'm going to help you you're going to help me rescue the Israelites from Egypt. Moses is like, I don't talk so good, pick someone else, I don't want to be your mouthpiece. But it's interesting how often God seems to choose the people who are the least likely, the people who are inadequate, the people who feel like they don't have it all together. I think part of the reason for that is that God knows that when we feel that way, we've no choice but to rely on him and not think that it's all about us. And sadly, many of us have been in contexts or know of stories where people do think that it's all about them and they forget that it's actually all about God, and there's significant collateral damage that comes out of that. So I wonder for us, in what ways do we feel inadequate? In what ways do we maybe feel unprepared, unable, unready? What are the things that you would say, yeah, but God, I'm just not sure about this part of who I am? What could it look like to allow God to be the one who fills in those gaps? To increase our reliance on him rather than feeling like we have to be enough, rather than feeling like it's up to us to be capable enough. We're going to come back to that at the end. Well, God then replies to Jeremiah and he takes it even further. He says, don't say I'm too young, for you must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you. And don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you and I will protect you. I, the Lord, have spoken. I will be with you and I will protect you. I've been wrestling with those words over the last couple of weeks, has been starting to get this stuff ready. Wrestling with that question. Is that actually enough? And don't just gloss over that. Like, genuinely, if they were the only two things that you knew, the only two things that you were promised, that God would be with you and that God would protect you, is that enough? Or are there other things that we rely on? Are there other things that we put our trust in? Instead of simply having faith, trusting that God is with us and God will protect us. But I know for me, there's all these other guarantees, there's all these other caveats. Yeah, I'll trust you, God, but only once this is sorted out, only once we've got enough money, only once I've got that part of my career sorted out, only once I graduate, only once the kids are a bit older, only once. The challenge for us, which comes through loud and clear throughout Jeremiah, is any time that those things take a higher place than God, or even an equal place with God, guess what he calls it? Idolatry, which is pretty challenging. And we'll see over and over again the idols and the sovereignty of God, putting God as number one, just do not align. So God then outlines what Jeremiah's role is going to be as he steps into this. Jeremiah 1 verse 9, then the Lord reached out and touched my mouth and said, look, I've put my words in your mouth. Today I appoint you to stand up against nations and kingdoms. Some you must uproot and tear down, destroy and overthrow. Others you must build up and plant. These are the purposes of Jeremiah's message. And it's fascinating the contrast that's there. To tear down and overthrow, and to build up and plant. Destructive and constructive. Farming metaphors and building metaphors. Tear up, uproot, and then plant. Overthrow, break down, destroy, and then rebuild. In a lot of ways, I think those two things resonate with us, literally and figuratively. We've just had something knocked down, torn apart, and we're in the process of waiting for something to be built up. But in the midst of what's going on for us, are we willing to allow God to pull things apart, to pull things out, to reveal things, to challenge our priorities, to challenge our idols, so that we can then rebuild, we can replant in a stronger way? Well, God gives some specifics in verses 11 to 16 about what's to come. You can read them in your own time this week. But then he finishes with these promises to Jeremiah, which is where I want to finish up as well. Verses 17 to 19. God says, get up and prepare for action. Go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. Do not be afraid of them, or I'll make you look foolish in front of them. For see, today I've made you strong, like a fortified city that cannot be captured, like an iron pillar or a bronze wall. You will stand against the whole land, the kings, officials, priests, and the people of Judah. They will fight you, but they will fail. For I am with you, and I will take care of you. I, the Lord, have spoken. As we're going to see, there are some very dark days ahead for Jeremiah, and I can only imagine the comfort and the strength that he took from these words that are here. This powerful imagery of what God was going to give him. God was going to make him like a fortified city, an iron pillar, a bronze wall. I'm strengthening you, Jeremiah, and you will be able to stand against everyone, against the whole land, against kings, against officials, priests, the people of Judah. But where does God land again? I will be with you and I'll take care of you. I'll be with you, I will protect you. So as we enter into the final part of what this year holds, and as we start to imagine what next year's going to look like and beyond that, I wonder what the things are that God's calling us into, what God might be inviting us into. It's doubtful, and probably good news, that there aren't many of us, if any of us, that are going to have to step into the types of things that Jeremiah had to endure. I think we're all pretty safe from having to go that far. But each of us do have a role to play in Jesus' kingdom work. I genuinely believe that. And so there are two simple but very important questions for us to wrestle with as we process what we might be being invited into. And my encouragement is for us to reflect on these things tonight as we head into this week, but we will also come back to them, as Josh mentioned, as a part of our small group alternative gatherings next Sunday. So 2 questions for us to reflect on. First of all, where do I feel inadequate? And in what ways is God enough in that? What are my yeah buts? When I think about being invited by God to participate in his kingdom work, what's the first thing that comes to mind for me? Because for most of us, it's not, yes, where do I start? For most of us, yeah, but I don't know about this. I'm not sure about this. What are those inadequacies that we have? And what does it look like for us to trust that God wants to fill that gap in? That God is actually enough. If he's the one inviting us, That's all that we need. But then secondly, if God is with me and God is going to protect me, what are the other things that I'm like, yeah, but I also would really like to have this. I wish I had this in place. If God's with me and God will protect me, and He's promised that, what else is it that we need? I want to give us a couple of moments in the quiet just to be able to jot a couple of things down in reflection to those two questions, because I want to capture that while we're here. But my encouragement is throughout this week to keep coming back to those questions. What are your responses to that? And as I said, next week we're going to spend a bit of time unpacking that in our small group times together. But let's just take a couple of moments in the quiet, jot a couple of things down, talk to God about what you need to, and then I'll pray. God, we are so incredibly grateful for your goodness to us, for your faithfulness to us. It is extraordinary when we look out over our lives, when we look out over our history as a church, as we've done a lot over the last couple of years, to be able to see the way in which you have consistently been there for us. But we know, if we're honest, that at times we can be very much like the Israelites, where even though we're aware of all of that, we still choose to say thanks but no thanks, and to walk off chasing after other things, pursuing other things, putting a trust in other things, instead of you as the only one that we know is able to deliver. And so we want to confess that. We want to say sorry for the times where we have and where we continue to put our trust in other things in place of you. You know our heart's desire is to be able to trust you fully. But we live in a world that is so complex, and there's so much other stuff that continues to bombard us and to drag us away from that. And so we pray that as we enter into this series, as we spend these next number of weeks unpacking this message over and over again about unconditional surrender, that you would gently but firmly challenge us about the places where we don't have unconditional surrender. But maybe we have conditional surrender, or we're not really that fully surrendered. Thanks that you don't do that from a place of judgment, you don't do that from a place of condemnation, but you do that from a place of love. Just wanting us to be able to experience all that you've got for us, to be able to experience life the way that it's supposed to be. And thanks that even though we choose so often to walk away, you continue to invite us to participate in the work that you're doing in our lives and through our lives, in our community and through our church family. You know that our heart, as we continue to move forward as a church and explore all the things that are coming, is that we do want to participate in all that you've got for us. But these two questions are so significant, because so often we step away from that because we feel inadequate. And so often we step away because we don't trust that just your presence and your protection is enough. And so I pray that you would help us to understand that you don't see any of us as inadequate. That in actual fact you have given us more than enough to be able to do anything that you've invited us to step into. And in those places where we don't feel like we're enough, that's okay, because you are, and that's the more important thing. And in those places where we feel like there are other things that we want to put our trust in or our hope in, you'll challenge us about just how fickle so many of those things are. And that all we do need is your presence and your protection, and everything ultimately will end up where you want us to be. Increase our confidence, increase our faith, increase our trust in you as we make our way through this series. And as we step away into the rest of tonight, into what this week holds, we pray that you would keep these questions churning in our minds. You would help us to find ways to continue to reflect on that, to put ourselves in positions where we can open ourselves up to what you've got to say to us, and then be able to step into a new way of living that reflects what unconditional surrender is all about. In your name we pray. Amen.
We're going to spend a few minutes now singing a song, New Wine, as an opportunity to yield, to surrender to what God is calling us to let go of feelings of inadequacy or not now, but surrendering to God is with me, God will protect me, and He is enough. Please stand if you're able.
You are making
pizza tonight, which is awesome, so very exciting. If you would like to make a donation towards the pizza, the FBOS machine is out there, so you can feel free to do that. The instructions are right there, but if you need any help, then come and ask. I'll be happy to help you out in Matt's absence, but we hope you can stick around for a little while and grab some pizza. I'm sure there's going to be plenty, so even if you're not sticking around for a long time, take some pizza home maybe. We'll see how much is there. But we also hope that you'll continue the conversations from tonight, and if you do need to head off, hope you have a great rest of the long weekend and a great week.